What's up, guys? Today we're going to be taking a look at the Galaxy A55 5G. I wasn't going to pick this up because they're not selling this phone in the United States, but I have a pretty big international audience. So the reason why they're not selling it in the United States is, I think, because the phone itself just doesn't make sense here, considering that you can buy a Galaxy S23 FE, which is going to be better than this phone pretty much, or just any older flagship. The phone itself is like $400, and I'll put that link down below. But yeah, I know the markets are different overseas. All right, let's get this out. This feels much different this year. This is a, let's see what it is. Oh, it's a full glass and metal design this year. Oh wow, so it's full premium design this year. Nice. It feels very like a flagship now. Alright, so of course, paperwork, SIM tray tool. Is there a case in here? Nah. And we get our cable, type C to type C. Alright, so first impressions of the hardware. Again, Samsung with this design, it looks basically like an S24, and it looks like an S24 Plus more than ever these days, especially from the back. And now the design is a very sharp phone, especially on these edges as well. So I'm not sure how comfortable that will be, for long periods of time. It's not smooth like the older A series phones. It's IP67 dust and water resistant as well too. And yeah, but I'm really liking how premium it feels now. So let's go ahead and boot this up and check out the display here. Alright, so my first impressions of the display, it's a pretty good display for the most part. It's a 6.6 inch Super AMOLED display. So typically these Galaxy A series phones are a little bit smaller, but this one is a little bit bigger. So it has a Super AMOLED, 120 Hz, it's HDR10 plus, and I'm only seeing 1000 nits for the brightness here. So I think that might be the max brightness on the spec sheet. But it's 1080p 390 for the PPI, and you could definitely tell kind of like it's a mid-range phone compared to flagships, because you'll see a bit of bezel right here as well. It's not anything too crazy, but it does have that little bit of bezel right there. But the screen itself is fantastic. It has really great colors, and like I said, went outdoors, it's pretty sunny out, I was able to see the phone, no issues. So the max brightness, like I said, is not crazy high, but I was able to see the phone at least. So overall, I like the display, like I said, completely flat. And like I said, these Galaxy phones, or the A series now, is definitely much bigger. I think they typically were around 6.4 to 6.5 inches or something like that. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about One UI here. So this is basically the same One UI that we know and love here, and the processor on here. So it's running Android 14 One UI 6.1. It has the Exynos 1480 processor on here, and you guys could see the Geekbench scores. So far, it's been relatively smooth for the most part, but it does have a little bit of like animation lag and sort of a little bit jerky from time to time. But here are the Geekbench scores if you guys want to compare them to other devices here. But for the most part, the phone has been pretty smooth. I don't think the performance is bad at all, for first impressions. Everything is pretty smooth for the most part. Like I said, sometimes you might have like a little bit of jerkiness with animations and stuff like that, but as you can see, fairly smooth for the most part. Like the A54, when it first came out, it was kind of like glitching and kind of slow. But with software updates, they fixed that. But this one out of the box, it is pretty smooth, so that's really good. So yeah, so I do want to go ahead and talk about and also just one thing to mention, so you will not get Samsung desktop support. I had a couple questions about that. That's only for like the premium phones. The mid-range ones don't have it, but I do want to talk about gaming performance real quick. Now, a big reason a lot of people like these mid-range phones is because they do have micro SD card support. So this does have expandable storage on here as well too, which you can take advantage of. The base model is 128 gigs of internal storage and 8 gigs of RAM. But then again, like you guys already know what I'm gonna say, you can get an old flagship with SD card support. But yeah, a lot of people, if you want something newer, then this would be somewhat of a decent option. I'm still on the fence about it. I'm gonna make a few more videos about this comparison and stuff like that, but I don't think this is a terrible device so far. Just, you know, my first impressions of it. All right, so gaming performance on the A55, it's, you know, pretty decent. It pretty much games how a mid-ranger would. You can see we had smooth 60 frames on here, and yeah, like I said, it's not really anything too crazy. Like I said, an old flagship will definitely do better here. There's no 90 frames, and then if you go to HDR, we only have ultra settings. So yeah, so you're not gonna get the best settings when it comes to gaming. I would say if you're more of like a casual gamer, if you're not really a competitive gamer, you would definitely be better off with an old flagship or something like that. But as far as gaming for like the average person, if you just want to get a couple matches of PUBG in, Call of Duty, it'll definitely be able to play this, no problem. It just won't be able to play it at like, you know, max settings and stuff like that. But yeah, it's pretty smooth, and I haven't had any type of heating issues with this phone so far. I don't feel it getting warm or anything like that, so that's pretty nice. Let's check out these speakers at max volume. So pretty good speakers on here. I'm actually surprised. A pretty good bass quality, pretty loud. The top speaker is also doing a pretty good job as well too. So not mad at the not the fingerprint scanner, but the speakers on here. Now I do want to talk about the fingerprint scanner. I haven't had the best experience with this fingerprint scanner. It feels like I have to apply more pressure than I'm used to. Like, you have to kind of really like apply pressure on here. It's not the fastest. Even for an, you know, a optical one. I did redo my fingerprint, and I still, you know, you just kind of, it feels like I have to press this one a little bit harder. But it does work. I'm just not used to pressing that hard. But yeah, the fingerprint scanner, it is fine. It does work. You can also take advantage of face unlock as well too. Alright guys, I do want to talk about the cameras on here as well. So it's a 50 megapixel standard and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. There is a 5 megapixel macro. So again, you're not gonna get any type of telephoto lens. Now you do have 4K 30 for the video, and then a 32 megapixel selfie that also shoots in 4K 30. My first impressions of the shots were pretty good for the most part. I thought this took some really good pictures. I only kind of noticed like a big difference between these and the flagships is probably like maybe in a low light, it didn't do as good as I wanted it to, but for a mid-ranger, it took about the photos that you would expect. Really nice detail, great color, especially if you're in good lighting. The selfie was actually pretty good, very skin tone accurate as well too, surprisingly. And yeah, the video was okay. It was a little bit grainy, even in like sunlight I could tell it wasn't like you know, it wasn't as good as the flagship video, but overall the image quality I thought was pretty solid. I don't think anybody would take photos with this phone and say it's a bad phone for taking photos or video with. Now, like I said, in low light, you know, it was just okay, but I definitely think this is a solid phone for taking, you know, photos and videos with. Alright guys, and that is pretty much it. So my first impressions of this device, it's pretty nice. I do like the hardware on here. The glass move on the back was pretty nice. You know, I'm gonna do some comparisons, talk about this phone a little bit more. Would I buy this phone or would I recommend it? It really depends. If you live in USA, I definitely wouldn't. You guys already know. But I understand like outside markets, it definitely might make sense. But we're gonna go ahead and do some more comparisons, check the phone out a little bit more, and yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one.